So through this video, let us try to understand about the behavior of optical medium when the light rays made to fall over them. As far as the types of optical medium is concerned, generally we have three types of optical mediums. For example, as we know, there is a type of optical medium that is known as transparent medium. Number two, translucent medium. And the third one is opaque medium. Opaque medium. Actually, what is the difference which makes these three different is the amount of light coming out from this medium. This is the particular difference which makes the distinction between these three. Now let us discuss what exactly is the transparent medium. It is a very basic concept of optics that light can pass through the transparent material and it partly or partially can pass through the translucent medium and it cannot enter into the opaque medium. So why does it so? Now let's get started with the example of transparent material in the comparison of opaque medium. So before this, let's discuss what exactly is the light. So as you know, light is the form of energy, rather it is exactly energy. Okay, so whenever light comes from any source, for example natural source, we can take the sun. So light comes from the sun in the form of bundle of electrons and which is simple known as photons. So let's say this is one kind of wave, that is a light wave, and this light wave is nothing but the series of continuous photons. Okay, so what exactly is the photon? Photon is group of electrons having same energy. This is exactly meaning by the photon. And the light is always comes from the terms of photons. So whenever this light coming from the sun or coming from any other artificial source is made to fall on the transparent material, let's take example of glass. So when this light ray falls over the glass, what exactly happens at the microscopic level? So let's say this is the atom of a glass material and this is a nucleus simply having a positive charge at large, and this is the first orbit, contains 2 electrons maximum according to Bohr-Barry law, and this is the second orbit, contains maximum 8 electrons, and so on and so forth. Other orbits can be made in the same manner. Okay, so whenever light coming from the source falls over the atoms of glass material, then as you very well know, these electrons have the certain energies and this energy is a fixed. That's why this is known as the fixed energy levels. The electrons which are revolving in this orbit will not go in another orbit until and unless their energy becomes so large so that they can migrate from here to there, and which is simply known as the excited state of the atom, right? Generally what happens, outermost electrons generally migrate from their orbit to the higher orbit. So let's suppose a hypothetical situation that this light ray falls over this atom, and what will happen? The energy possessed by the photon may be absorbed by these electrons. Okay, now the total energy of this electron will be greater in the comparison of their previous energy, and according to a simple basic law, this electron will migrate because now its energy is higher than its previous energy. So this electron will migrate over there. Okay, and after some time this electron will take again its initial orbit, and when it comes back, during that time it will radiate some energy. This is the simple basic emission of radiation phenomena. But what happens with the transparent medium exactly? Actually, when these photons are made to fall over the atoms of the transparent material, actually what happens, these electrons do not get so much energy so that they can migrate from their parent orbit to another higher orbit. And why does it so? This is because the energy possessed by the photons is not so much large so that these electrons can migrate from here to another orbit. That's why what happens, the energy of these photons or the photons themselves cannot be absorbed by these electrons which are revolving in their orbit. And now what happens, these photons, without affecting their path, they pass through the atom. Okay, so what exactly is happening now? The photons coming from the light source are not absorbed by the electrons which are falling their way. That's why they, without any disturbance, without any interference in their path, they let go from the atom. Similar way, other photons are not also absorbed by the electrons of this atom. So for each and every ray comes from coming from the outer source, passes from this atom in this way, and this phenomena actually happens with all the other atoms of the transparent material. So this is how transparent material are able to pass through the light from themselves. This is exactly the meaning of transparency, right? Now let us discuss about what happens with the opaque medium. Actually, in opaque medium, this gap means that the difference between the energy level is very lesser than the gap of the energy levels of glass kind of material, transparent material. So whenever the photons coming from the light source are made to fall over the atoms of opaque medium, they are completely absorbed by the electrons moving in the different orbits. And when these photons are absorbed by the electrons moving in the orbit, now electrons migrate from the apparent orbit to higher level, okay? And this phenomena actually happens with each and every photon coming from the outer source. So what exactly is happening? All the photons coming from the light source are completely absorbed by the electrons moving in the orbit. In this way, no light is passing out from this atom. No light. All the light coming from the outermost shell is absorbed in terms of photons by the electrons, right? And what exactly happens with the translucent medium? Actually, the energy level or energy gap between these two orbits for the translucent material is between to the transparent material and opaque medium. So let's say if the transmaterial medium, this is a 2 unit gap between the orbit. This is the hypothetical numerical value, and for opaque medium it is very slightly less. Let's say this is 0.5 unit. This gap is 0.5 unit, okay? And for transparent material this should be 2 unit. Then for the translucent material, this gap might be 1 unit. So for this situation, what will happen? Whenever photons coming from the light source will made to fall over the atoms, then few of photons will be absorbed by some electrons which have eligibility or ability to go from the apparent orbit to the outermost shell, and some photons will go out through this atom without any deviation or without any absorption, right? So this happens actually with the translucent material, okay? Now let's take another phenomena over here, which is actually happens with the transparent and opaque medium. So what exactly is the reflection? As we know, reflection nothing but the phenomenon of coming back of anything. So whenever light is made to fall over the surface, reflecting surface, it turns back in the same medium, coming from one medium to again going into the same medium. This is actually called as a reflection. But at the microscopic level, what is happening? So light ray coming from the outer source in terms of photon is not absorbed by any kind of element, any kind of electron. That's why it is coming out from the atom as such, right? But as far as the opaque medium are concerned, then why opaque medium are able to reflect the light or are able to completely absorb the light? Now we are discussing this. So now let's form the atomic structure of opaque medium. So the photons coming from the outermost shell will be completely absorbed by this electron which is moving in this orbit, and this electron now will go into the higher level orbit, okay? And after some time, when it will lost its energy, it will return back into its parent orbit, and in this duration some radiation will come out from this transformation, and this radiation exactly is the reflection of light. So incoming light and what? Outgoing light. So this is the incoming light as the incident ray, and this is the outgoing light as the reflected ray. So what exactly is the reflected ray? Reflected is nothing but the radiation coming from the migration of electron. When it turns back, it comes back from its higher energy level to lower energy level, okay? Now what happens with some perfectly opaque medium which do not reflect light at all? For example, black body. So what exactly happens with the black body, or what black body does with the light? So whenever these photons are made to fall over the black body, then all the photons completely will absorbed by the electrons of black body atom. Okay, and when these atoms now at excited state will leave their orbit and go into the higher energy level and come out again, comes back into their parent orbit, so they will emit some radiation which is not visible by our eye, and in simple terms it is generally invisible in terms of infrared, UV, etc. So the radiation which is coming out from this electron is sometimes, in the most times, is in the form of infrared or UV. That's why we are not able to see the radiation coming from the black body radiation. Okay, so these are the three situations which categorizes the optical medium into the three types. One is transparent, another is translucent, and third is opaque medium.